Hi, all. Welcome back to another podcast of Koot Podcast Series. This is Shankar. I'm the founder CEO of Koot, and I'm going to be today's host for this edition. And today we have a very honorable guest with us, Ms. Saraswathi Ramachandra. She is a MD and CEO of Lightcast, which is one of the GCCs in India. Beyond working in Lightcast, she is also an active advocate of women empowerment as well as even helping various students in terms of getting jobs and other things. And she also worked with various other companies like Cisco and all. So I'm quite excited in having discussion with her and going to learn a lot. I'm sure all of you will do. So welcome, ma'am, to our podcast.
Thank you for having me, Shankara. Pleasure to be with you this morning. And thanks to all the listeners, because that's what I think the whole intent is to make sure we are able to share some learning.
Great, Ms. Saraswati. Before diving into our topic and questions, our audience would like to know a little bit about you. From the professionally, what you have done. Would be happy to hear.
Absolutely. So I've been in the industry little more than 25 years. You don't see the gray because it's still taking time to gray for whatever reason. But yeah, I have been with the industry for more than 25 years. Been a technical person throughout technology and been in analytics and AI for last 25 years with a global experience. My passion really lies in enhancing customer experience, creating business value, and formulating innovation-led strategy. And this requires a lot of mindset change, process, which enables innovation and finding opportunity that enables growth, which is rightly done with the leverage of business knowledge, data science, and technology. Like you said, I am managing Lightcast India as managing director here for GCC. The interesting part of Lightcast India is we are not just GCC, we are actually an enterprise. We have all businesses set up in a very short stint. We also have P&L responsibility because we are starting the business in India. And that to me is the most exciting journey of Lightcast. And that's what is very motivating for me because most GCCs are cost center, but we are not just cost center. Prior to this, I was with Citi managing corporate banking analytics, responsible for various rollouts of analytical solution that we developed uh, across multiple countries that we are present in. Before that, I led global analytics for Danske Bank for all the markets. All the five markets I was responsible for, while also managing the technology team. Prior to this, I've worked with Cisco, FICO, Accenture, and Wipro. Wipro was my starting ground, and the learnings that I've had has been tremendous. Um, I've also been part of PMI board of directors, um, been active in GHCI, have led various DEI initiatives, and to me, the most interesting or impactful initiatives have been with really Cisco and City. I think the C resonates, where we did impactful initiatives. In City, we even I was leading diversity radio, where we used to bring in hosts of various within the organization, of course, and then talk about various meaning of diversity, not just, most often diversity is taken as gender, but then various meaning of diversity. And it was a fantastic hit. I think it's also quoted as an example in various papers now. I have co-authored two books along with other industry leaders, and I've been awarded as 150 top analytics leader, women leader of 2025. I am also board of advisors with an NGO and some academic institutes. Academically, I've done double masters. I've done my masters in software engineering from BITS Pilani and MBA from Symbiosis. Personally, I'm a strong believer of people because at the end of the day, it's the people who we rely on for everything. Obviously, the positive impact of technology that can bring in is another belief that I have. So it's really the people and the technology together that makes the world better. That's a small intro of myself.
Thanks and kudos for the great job, Ms. Saraswati. So diving into our topic, I think I wanted to give that intro of Lightcast is one of the few GCCs who are also managing a complete PNL, but you spill the bean. But we would like to understand a little more about what it takes to run a PNL, right? Especially, could you also share a little more whether it's only India business or you also handle international business and how does it happen? I think little more details.
Sure. Um, so, the way I look at PNL, I just, somewhere they said if you can explain something to a 6-year-old, you understand. So
Sure,
I
would be happy
always
to
try
hear.
to give
Yeah,
examples. The way I compare it is like running a household versus when you're staying in a PG or the shared rental, right? Um, when you're renting or when you're in a PG, you just focus on your room, keep it tidy, share your rent, pay your rent, or maybe once in a while enter the kitchen and get your food, right? But when you have your own house, suddenly you're thinking about multiple things like plumbing, electricity, maintenance, uh, how to increase the property value, right? And that to me is the difference between a GCC, which is cost center, and moving to PNL. Moving to PNL is the ownership. Um, it's moving from keeping things running to thinking like an owner. Right? That's a huge mind shift change. In Lightcast India, we are, of course, we have started the India business, but our aspiration is global. When I say global, of course, we are looking at our emerging markets. There are many, many markets today that okay, we believe we are the global leaders in when it comes to labor market. We are very strong in few countries. We are looking at all of the emerging markets. So while we have started India, we are looking at global data and saying where else should we be penetrating. So that is the world we are emerging into. Uh, if I have to deep dive a little bit into PNL mindset that you talked about, do you want me to elaborate
yes.
a little bit more about our strategy? I mean, I just want to keep it at high level.
Definitely, little bit background about what is Lightcast, right? I think what do you do, and I think I say that it is a data. That's what, but
So we are
little bit
the
that, and
global
then the
leader.
context.
Yeah,
Yes, yes,
we are a global leader in labor market data analytics. So we work across the domains of education, where we are bridging the gap of skills and saying what curriculum needs to be developed. In providing that insight to make sure people who are studying are actually going to be employable in the future, because we have the market data to see what is the future skill that is required, right? So we are able to help devise that curriculum, bridge that gap, so that we actually know whatever is being taught is going to be the skill that is required in the future, and they're going to be employable. We work with corporates for skill based learning, for understanding job market, for understanding or giving that insight of job market, of what kind of, we are lucky to be doing this business, because if today there is downward path when it comes to hiring, everybody is looking at how do I upskill, and we have that data and insight to be able to say this is where you need to go. If the future is all looking great, you still want to make sure you're beating everybody else in the competition, and we have that data, right? So whether the market is up or down, we provide that insight into what keeps you in the job. So, what kind of upskilling is required? So, we work with enterprise for that kind of solutioning, and also with government in creating the policies, because ultimately, job market is the government policies revolve around that unemployment job market. So, we are also influencing the decision making when it comes to policy decisions, and we work with government to say what kind of future is in store and what is it that government needs to be doing as well. So and then of course we have data for 200 plus countries. Our penetration is really good in few markets, and we are also looking at how do we expand further, so that we are able to provide that insight not just to few countries but across all countries.
Great. Just to reiterate the topic, like there are Lightcast is one of the few GCCs having a kind of P&L responsibility. I think overarching beyond the cost center. So how did it happen, right? If some other GCC leader want to see this and see that, how is there any playbook which they can emulate?
So, see, I think it is a combination of multiple things, right? One is the mindset shift. I think as leaders, we should actually step out of historically, if you see from India perspective, we have known to be service providers and we are fantastic at it. Our hospitality is great. Um, we are able to deliver anything that has been asked. So, as a service provider, we grew into GCCs thanks to organizations like ANSR who thought GCCs required set it up. But the leaders we have taken are people who have been service providers now moving to GCC. And the mindset still seems to be how do we measure efficiency? What are the metrics that we deliver, right? What we did is we looked at as early as when I was joining, we discussed saying, while we deliver everything is required, we do have potential market opportunity in India. So while I was joining during my interview itself, we had those discussions. It took a few months to make sure that is getting executed, where we said, yes, it makes sense. Obviously, it was a lot of discussion around um, what should we look at from an India perspective? What should we look at from a market perspective? Should it be education? Should it be where should we focus our energy on? Right? Um, and then uh, uh, and then clearly we saw the potential. Leadership was very open to exploring the opportunity because there's clear opportunity that exists in India market. Right? India is definitely, if you look at the GDP growth, India is the place to be investing in. Um, like CK Prahlad said, we might not get the same dollar value for the same deal, but um, you know, a fortune at the bottom of the pyramid, that's what he called. We have volume, which compensates for the dollar value for each deal. So that's a very open-ended conversation we had, very honest conversation we had, saying every deal is not going to give us the same dollar value, but the volume is going to make us stand out, right? And why not invest in a in a place in a country where there is definitely GDP growth? So we talked about it a lot. We saw the potential, and we said, yeah, we will invest in a business here. But like going back to what I was saying, it is shifting the mindset of leaders, which is beyond showing that to the headquarters, right? Saying it's not just efficiency metrics, it is business impact. For several years, we have measured GCC success about low cost transaction, faster turnaround, efficiency, fewer defects. These are important, but that's where it used to stop. But the real shift is really asking how does my work move the business needle? For example, if we are working on an analytics dashboard, we shouldn't be stopping at measuring the report accuracy, but asking, does this dashboard really help sales
Mhm.
close the deal faster, right? Does it bring in the new revenue opportunity? Does it improve the customer retention? When we start measuring success by these value, is when we start moving the needle. Um, Running service delivery is basic expectation, speed is basic expectation, accuracy is basic expectation when it comes to GCC. But the true business impact is whether customers reorder or recommend us to others. Right? That's the mindset change that I'm talking. So, as GCC leader, I frame my question, and the success really is from we have saved X million in cost to we have generated Y million in value, right? That's when the headquarters starts to seeing you as strategic partner, not as efficiency partner, right? That's the mindset change. And what I've realized, and to me, Shankara, this happened when I took a global role. We are excellent in delivering something, right? So delivery used to happen, but when I took the global role, that's when I realized it's not just doing. what you are good at your own thing, right? So for me, this realization was a game changer. So this wasn't just execute the plan. How do I look at the market? This is own the revenue, own the cost, own the outcome. And the way I approached things changed overnight. Until then, I was focused on metrics like delivery quality, turnaround time. But moment P&L came under my control, the thinking shifted. I suddenly wasn't asking, are we on time? I was asking, are we building something that customers will pay for us? Is this what our customers want? Are we solving for customer pain point? Is this the most profitable way to deliver, right? Every decisioning felt different. Um, Hiring, for example, wasn't just filling a seat. It was really about whether that role would accelerate time to market. Budget wasn't really thinking about can we request this. It was more around what is the ROI? Will it show up in the quarterly numbers, right? So whole every line item of how we think and how we make decision changed. So we even started challenging product roadmap, right? So like I said, that is the evolution that I have personally undergone. And to me, that helped in having those discussions when it came to Lightcast leaders. And today, like I said, we are not just cost center, right? We are asking those questions saying, how do I contribute to both bottom line and top line? So while while I talked about mindset change, there is an inherent thing that also happens, right? As cost center, what happens is we are silent. We are finance department, we are engineering department, we are support department. And even though all the functions might exist in GCC, we are not close to the customer, right? If we are not doing business here. And again, if all the departments exist, how are we talking to each other? Most often, the cost center GCC is siloed. Finance does their job, engineering does their job, ops does their job. But when it comes to P&L, you will see the magic happen. These silos slow you down, and they just aren't the slowing when it comes to P&L is not something that you will take. So suddenly the things change, and that's when the fun begins. You need to have that cross-functional squads that bring product, engineering, marketing, customer success, everybody into the same conversation. And that way, decisions happen with full context. You will move from idea to market much faster. And that happens when you're together, when you bring in that synergy. This also means a tight integration with global sales and product teams. Uh, you really can't create revenue impact in isolation, right? For example, if we are releasing a new feature, um, product must design it. Sales must know how to sell it. Marketing must know how to position it. So it's all locked together. And this happens when you know end-to-end game, when you have to sell, when you have P&L responsibility. To me, that's the difference between relay race, where everybody runs their own legs separately, to a rowing team when everybody is synchronized and doing, stroking towards this synchronized art of finishing. So the way I see it is it's like running a local cafe, right? You can make the best coffee and manage costs. And to really thrive, you've got to think about customer experience. You need to introduce new items. You need to have community events and ways to grow in your local pace. So that is an entrepreneurial leadership, and that evolution has to happen as a leader. Every GCC leader should look at how do I drive an entrepreneurial drive? How do I have that? Not just operational enterprise. It's really spotting the new opportunities, taking calculated risk, and owning to the consequence, whether it is good or bad. That decisioning and consequence we need to own. Um, as an operational leader, I would ask, have we delivered on this time, right? But I wouldn't do that today. While I ask that question, the question is much more how we added to the revenue, right? To me, it's thus a combination of mindset change, leadership evolution, breaking the silos and bringing things together. And that is where um, you think about the whole life cycle of the business, revenue growth, cost structure, customer experience, and it's no more just washing, it's no more just delivering the project. Uh, that is a washout.
Yeah, yeah, fantastic, fantastic for the detailed explanation. I think you kind of preempted multiple other questions. No, I had in my mind. One thing which is coming to my mind is like, uh, you know, there are so many businesses also happening in India, right? Whether it is a startup or an Indian enterprises. So when you working for an Indian company, normally these kind of problem won't happen because everyone sails together. Like the way you mentioned, everyone rows together, right? But only when it comes to GCC, you are owning a different target, and then you try to just stick to it. Say that hey, how many FTEs I have, or no, and so on and so forth. So so I think, but I will put it this way, right? I'm a one of the large GCC leader, right? Saying that how can they think about owning a business, right? It's a chicken and grease, right? Till you have a business, you cannot think about ROI or anything, or till you have a ROI and those kind of conversation, you will not get a business. So if someone say that, hey, I'm running a traditional GCC, but now I want to run like leadership as well as even a P&L responsibility, owning the business. How can they go about? Is there any playbook you could suggest?
Yeah, so I think it's baby steps, right? Um, Even if we don't have business, can we sit into the customer calls? Can we ask leaders to be sitting in product decision meetings, right? Can we have our people be part of decision making? Because if we don't understand our landscape of customers, there's no way we can get into the P&L. We need to understand business. We need to understand how we make money. We need to understand our customer pain point. Often, what we are doing is delivering, like I said, but while delivering, can we take the next step and saying, okay, we are developing a product. Now, how does this product roadmap gets developed? Because that comes from customer feedback, that comes from sales input, that comes from marketing feedback, it also comes from the support team, whatever the customer pain point. And then while developing roadmap, are we part of those discussions? Can we have our people sit into that discussion and say, hey, while we are developing this roadmap, I understand what is customer. I understand why we are developing this product. I understand how we are selling. Then instead of delivering a task, we are actually connecting the dots and delivering value. That's the first step, right? Being at a place where decision happens. We might be a silent spectator, but give us that space on the table. And that changes the game. And now, when we are understanding customer pain point, our delivery method changes. We might not have business, but we understand our customer, and that's the base to everything that we should be doing. See, why do we need a business in India? While revenue and P&L is one part of it, we need to understand our customer. That's the most important thing. And if we don't understand, we are just delivering to the task. We are not going to deliver to the value. Moment we start delivering value, everybody will look at you and say, India is not no more a cost center. They are actually an innovation hub. They're actually a value center. And now that we are value center, then can we say we develop some product of our own, and then we can scale it to global? That becomes your P&L. And I've seen GCCs do that.
Sure, this is helpful. Shifting the gears, right? I think any conversation will not be complete without discussing about AI, right? So, how do you leverage AI in your product as well as even in your day-to-day operations in the GCC?
I will keep it broad, not specifically for Lightcast. I think today there is nothing that AI can't do. We just have to choose the right use case. We just have to be cognizant about what is the right thing to do, a balance between people and AI. At Lightcast, principally, we have said AI is not going to replace people, and that is a decision, right? AI is going to complement what we do, and every decision revolves around that as to how do we make sure we are able to leverage capabilities of AI so that we become more efficient, so that we are making the conscious decision, so that we can look at the global data and say, yeah, this is the right thing to do for this particular region. Right? Because when you look at trillions of data, humanly it becomes difficult, but AI can provide you that insight and human can make the decision. But not just in Lightcast, but even previously, we have had many use cases that we had developed saying AI can do a brilliant job of fraud prevention. Um, you know, it can understand what customers, when we look at customers from a 360-degree perspective. Um, Again, going back to a call center will just answer that query and then they close it. But if we can feed that into a view of customer from a 360-degree perspective, then we actually understand customer. Then we actually understand, are they going to stay with us? Are they going to increase our revenue? Are they going to leave us? Then we can actually take the right, a relationship manager can actually make the right decision, right? So augmenting AI capability with human intelligence, I think is the best way. And we have made a decision to remain like that, at least in Lightcast.
Great. I think in Lightcast you have a decent size of people, but I'm sure you will be also working beyond your team. You would also working with various service providers, right? In various ways.
Yeah.
So how do you evaluate saying that a particular task should be done in-house or it can be done with the external people or even using some other tool, like a typical buy versus build decision? How do you really do that?
So basically, if you look at um, any GCC, I think it's not an isolation again, right? Um, it is an ecosystem. When I say ecosystem, um, we need to be able to leverage the strength of everybody. To me, what startups bring, the value of the startup is very different from an SI provider or a service provider. Right? Um, at the end of the day, we are solving for end customer, not for GCC process. So the way I approach service provider or the startup is really how can they solve my end customer problem, not my GCC. Hey, there's something that is broken. Can you change the process, right? Because that is not the value add that anybody can get. So anybody who approaches me with a pitch saying how they understand our customer challenges and can solve for it, that's where my ears go, right? It's really saying, how do I improve, uh, close your deal faster? How do I improve your customer, solve for your customer pain point, right? Service provider are somebody who can quickly scale up things because there is a lot of human resource capital that is available that's not necessarily available in GCC. Um, when you have P&L, you operate under intense scrutiny. Um, it's not every dollar counts. That means long abstract pictures without measurable outcomes saying, hey, we are this, we are that, doesn't necessarily help. Anybody who can offer short, well-defined pilot that delivers to a commercial proof point, which can increase the value, increase the revenue, reduce churn, or improve adoption or time to market acceleration is where I would look at service provider. In fact, I recently met a founder who didn't tell me that, hey, give me 12 months deal. They just came and said, we can solve this problem for you. They understood our processes. When I say processes, every touch point that is required to do that work. In 2 weeks, they came back to me saying that we have the POC ready. Do you want to look at it? That. So while I had talked to many people, the way they came back with a POC understanding our problem statement, decreasing the time to market. This will help me with the global rollout if it is implemented, right? So, um, to me, that is the value service provider can bring. Again, they didn't just sell, right? They actually talked about how do we create a new product line or how do we solve for a problem. And if I go back to startups, I think they bring in a value that is enormously different. Now, startups have innovation, they are very nimble, they're very agile, and they don't speak the language that they just don't have that legacy that is built in, right? We all carry a legacy baggage, but startups don't. So, wherever there's a new niche idea, see, in GCCs, we have different departments. We cater to those departments while also bringing them together. But if there's a new idea and quick implementation that needs to happen, we also have our own systems. We also have our own legacy that is built in saying this is the stack you can use. This is the way you can develop things. But when it comes to startup, they're very, very nimble. They can produce things out of the box and they can create those POCs. So wherever there is uh, a new idea that needs to be quickly explored, I think that is where startups are super helpful because they bring in a value that nobody else can bring in.
Sure.
That is why it's an ecosystem depending on um, what value each one of them are bringing them together. That's where we will also succeed as GCC.
Definitely. So, in your experience, whether it is with respect to the Lightcast or even the past, have you worked with any of the vendors and how did the process go through? Because why I'm asking this is we also work with various GCCs, but after doing the POC or for various reasons, the leaders may not be empowered in onboarding, right? It's stuck at the procurement team, stuck with the budget approval process. Though we try to qualify as much possible, saying that do we have all these powers, but so, how is your experience, ma'am? I think again, it's not limited to your current or the past organization, but as an overall, since you have a ringside view of the whole GCC, how they operate.
So often I've seen that the language is, um, since you brought up procurement, I'm picking that word, right? I would say speak the language of innovation, not procurement. If you only talk in terms of features, cost, it sounds like a vendor, right? But if you talk in terms of market differentiation, customer delight, speed to revenue, you sound like an innovation partner,
Okay.
right? That language shift has to happen. Of course, that means you start engaging with product and business team, not just with procurement. Bring the ideas, share the market insights, co-create the roadmap. Um, so I personally know some service providers in my previous organization who did not sell software. They said, okay, why don't we set up joint innovation lab where we do a small business with the clients where we experiment. If it works, it works, right? But it is more like a marketplace. We bring ideas, we pitch in. If it works, then we are fantastic. We have a skin in the game. It's not just installing the tech. They helped us actually shape up the new product line. Um, I would say don't aim to be part of the vendor list, aim to be part of the product roadmap. If you can help us win the market, you will never have to fight for renewals, compete on price. Uh, you know, uh, just don't say, hey, we'll help you run faster, but say, can we help you run the race? Right? That changes a lot of things.
Sure, sure, definitely. It definitely will be helpful for a lot of the startups who might be listening to this. Right? Then coming to the talent, I'm sure all the GCs are coming to India primarily to get the best talent. But Yeah, it's relatively small GCC and that to a B2B brand like a Lightcast might have its own challenge in terms of the potential employees understanding, right? What is it? So, how do you create a brand for yourself as a GCC?
So, branding is not one element, right? It's not just going out and putting a stall. That could be part of it, but it is really what value you're bringing to your own employees. While we talked so much about customer value, business value, like I said, people are everything that we do. If we don't have the right talent, if we don't have the right people, and if we do not treat them well, uh, and if we are not able to provide employee value proposition, like a customer value proposition, then no matter how much external branding we do, internally it is going to rot. So, employee value proposition is a key to the branding as well. And that includes things like how do we treat people? How do we make sure there is unique proposition that we are able to provide, right? Um, and I personally believe everybody comes to work for not just salary. Salary is important because we have to run the household. But what am I learning every single day, right? If we can change that mindset in every individual, say, I am not delivering the task, I'm delivering the value. I am learning something through that. I think that is the stickiness everybody wants. Because everybody wants to feel valued. If it's just salary, it can be any organization, right? You just have to change the job. But we have been fortunate that our attrition levels are low. And then everybody wants to have office in Bangalore because we say talent is available there. I think uh, if we have to be fair, talent is everywhere, available everywhere, right? If I can just talk about the example of IITs, we have limited seats. Everybody rushes for IIT, but there are enough engineering colleges, right? We are not looking at tier two, tier three engineering colleges and say, how do I get local best engineering college so that we create these ecosystems or hubs in every place possible? If I can work near my hometown, take care of my parents, and earn, I think we've created the best value for country, for the people, and for the ecosystem, right? And that's what we are trying to do. While we go to the top engineering colleges, we are also looking at how can I get local engineering colleges near our where we are present and give them the opportunity. And we've seen best of the talents are available even in these engineering colleges. And the difference is also they're hungry, they're eager to learn, they're eager to contribute. That fire in the belly exists, they want to prove, and that's a phenomenal thing that can happen, right? So while we scout for talent in the limited places, the whole country has the talent. We just have to reach out in the right place. So to me, branding, that's why is not limited to putting the booths, um, putting a hoarding. Branding is how your employees are advocating for you, how your employees are talking about you in the market, how each one of them becomes a salesperson when they are going to their alumni colleges and saying, hey, we have a fantastic product. Why don't you use it? Or wherever they've worked before, they talk to their colleagues saying, this is what we do. Why don't you ask your HR to talk to us? Right? They become your brand ambassador. So customers are important, so are our employees, because nothing works if we don't have that employee value proposition. Um, I will stop there because I can go on about this for a long time.
Yeah, no, I understand. Definitely. But in the initial stages, getting the first 50, 100 employees would be challenge because you need enough people to talk about the value proportion, right? I think
Yeah.
so. In a way, how do you convince? the first 100 people, when your brand still not established, even internally also, to get it. Because the more every day there are new GCs are coming, and I'm sure everyone will learn it again, right? I think if they're doing for the first time, right? So though there are 1600 GCs have done it, but for the new person, it's again a new job, new frontier they need to handle. So is there any learning which they can learn from you, ma'am?
So I'll tell you, see, in Lightcast, I've just been lucky. We have grown through acquisition. There were people, we brought them together. Of course, we have hired externally from the market. So that giving current example would be a little bit unfair. It's been fair to me, but it's unfair because we acquired organizations, right?
Okay.
But in my previous organization where we had to set up, and this was with Danske Bank, um, Danske Bank did not
Okay.
exist, and we don't have branch of Danske Bank. When the GCC had to be started, it was really, I mean, I would say it's fun, right? It's fun because it's like starting your own setup. Obviously, there are no people. You have to hire, you have to deliver, you have to scale up, and you have to make sure globally you're visible. Right? Um, it's not easy, but we did talk to few vendors. We've explored various models. We actually rebadged few people who were from vendors, right, to start with, because they have been working with us from a vendor perspective, rebadging them, allowing them that opportunity actually brought in the loyalty. Um, we worked with other service providers to see if we can do this, you know, 6-month contract where we have the right to hire as and when they get, accustomed to what we do. We explored that right to hire model. I think nowadays all of them, including the big fours, allow that right to hire. And then, of course, going out in the market, being present in the right forum, talking the right things, um, and ensuring, and the best thing, right? I think if you talk to any GCC leaders, um, we have forum, and thanks to people like Pankaj and Samir who created that forum for us, right? We have a lot of GCC leaders who are willing to help each other. So having that network who will say, hey, tell me what is your problem, I'm there to solve for you, and giving it back when they need it. That ecosystem and networking definitely helps. Today, I need somebody, I raise my hands and say, I am in need of a finance person, right? I get referrals, which are fantastic. I get that support in saying, I've worked with this individual, knowing you, this is the best person, right? That makes all the difference. So, branding of the organization, each one of us are brand ambassadors, like I said, is also on us, right? Um, how do we go out of our comfort zone and create that network? How are we building that ecosystem where we are all supporting each other? I know it's a competition, we're all bleeding for talent, but at the same time, if somebody is leaving us, right, why don't we give that referral to somebody who's actually looking for something? It's a win win. Um, and that ecosystem definitely has helped me personally. I can vouch also for few of others who are definitely have benefited from this. Uh, but beyond that, you'll need to do all the drama and show, right? You need to be present in um, speaker forums. You need to create that brand awareness, um, give jerseys and things like that, which becomes visible. Um, Go put the booth. All of those are standard templates that everybody follow, right? But to me, the biggest differentiator has been the network, set of people who believe in you, set of people who will support you, because that pool doesn't come by paying by Mastercard. It comes by investing that time. It comes by building that trust, and nobody can take that away.
Sure, ma'am. Sure. It all looks hunky dory for a GCC leader, right? But I'm sure you will have enough challenges in a day. So could you really run through for the vision, like for the 2025, 2026, you will have your own. What are the challenges you face at the very broad level, 10,000 feet level, and also on the day-to-day level, right?
Yeah, to me the biggest challenge today is how do I break that silo, right? I talked about the silos in the beginning, but how do I break that silo and lead to the global product development or innovation? Um, you know, again, I would like to give day-to-day example, right? Actually, product teams are like kitchen with head head chef, and GCCs today are like regional chefs, right? Initially, we have always followed the recipes that the headquarters sent. We've created the dishes, but when it comes to creating a menu of your own and creating your own dish, it's a struggle, right? So we are very good at prototyping, testing, developing, uh, but when it comes to taking up strategic discussion and saying, how do I look future forward? How do I bring that innovative mindset? That is a struggle. That is definitely a struggle. Um, we are still seated in that co-delivery, but not co-ownership. Right? Um, but that shifting to that co-ownership where headquarters sets the broad direction, but we bring in that um, co-product development. That is, I think, the biggest challenge I face today. Um, Things like attrition, everything is common industry problem, but really to me the question is how do I take the lunchroom chatter innovation idea to product roadmap, and how do I make my leaders think of that product, how do I make my leaders think strategy, and then percolate it down to every single individual who starts having that mind shift change, because that is when we are actually the co-owners. And to me, that is the see, because as a cost center, just delivering would have been okay. But considering our aspiration to be the global leader, where we are strategically saying we will look at emerging markets, the mindset needs to be changed. And that is the journey we are in today. And that's what keeps me awake in the night saying, what are the things I need to do to change that mindset so that everybody starts becoming the owner of everything that they deliver, and everybody starts taking accountability for it, which is a completely mindset change compared to I've got the task and I've delivered.
Fantastic. I think I didn't realize that we are almost reached our scheduled time. Probably I will wrap up with a couple of more questions, ma'am. With the today's age, I keep reading most of the engineering colleges, right? Are not means most of the engineering graduates are not getting employed because most of the organizations stopped hiring freshers, right? So, what would be your advice to a fresh engineer? What can they do, right? Other than completing one more AI course, right, which millions of people are doing, right? So beyond completing an AI course, what can they do so that they can get a job with an MNC like you?
Okay, I'm doing my marketing pitch here. I would say all universities sign up with Lightcast because we will tell you what skills you need to provide for your students to be employable, right? Um, Actually, it's like, you know, um, I like Brad Pitt, and I like, um, fast driving. And recently there was this movie F1, right? Um, if
Okay.
I take that analogy, it is really from moving, from being moved, from actually moving from a skilled driver to becoming a rally driver, right? When India was being looked at, hey, you have the talent, you have the skill, you have the knowledge. How do we convert that knowledge to skill? right? We all learn from the textbook. That's the knowledge. But how do you apply it when you join this corporate? That skill, I think between knowledge, skill, we have understood that. But now, really, the scenario is how do you become a rally driver, right? And in that movie, they show that while he is racing, he actually goes for rally as well. So it's not just about operating the vehicle, it's actually navigating the unpredictable terrains at a very high speed of change that is happening in the industry. And that's where Lightcast comes into picture, right? Um, to the students, I would say don't just say I've learned what is in the textbook. There are several forums. Are you present in GitLab? Have you attended industry hackathons? Are you standing out from every other student who is present in your class? Or are you saying, I got 6, 7 CGPA, somebody will come and hire? That's not going to happen because that scenario has changed. So that's why you need to become a rally driver now, not just being able to operate the car, right? How do we understand the domain? How do we build that strategic equipment where we understand? If, say, I'm interested in um, retail industry, if that is what my focus is, it's not just enough to say, I know what technology, it's important to understand what domain. But beyond that, who are my competitors? If a graduate can come and talk about or create a white paper saying, who are the competitors, how do we deal with the publishing those blogs, they stand out, right? They don't even need campus guys to come because there's always need for fresh talent. What they bring in that can never be taken away. It might not be in the volume that used to be before, but it is cyclic thing. It is going to change. But in the days of turmoil, how do you stand out is very different. So that strategic acumen is very important. And more importantly, I would say, how do you build that race car team? Right. Again, to my Brad Pitt moment, in GCCs, we have the leaders, right, who are the drivers, we have pit crews, we are operationally good, but we need the strength to be able to bring in tires, fuels, tools. Which one of them can you bring to the table as a fresher? Do you have the startup mindset which can fuel this whole thing, right? All that matters, but I think if I have to say few things, the biggest shift is happening in terms of the GCC itself, right? Nobody is looking at us as a cost center. We have been looked at value center. So as a student, what value do you bring in, right? Don't talk saying I've learned this code, but what have you delivered in your projects? What value have you brought in? How can you scale up? Um, there are a lot of regional nuances. Do you understand that? And do you go beyond this and talk about, say, sustainability? Um, can you bring in that crucial? Are you the crucial game changer in the thing? Are you the future global leader? Today, nobody is looking at what is your age to be a leader, right? We have 25 years for the startup CEOs, and they're making all the change that they can. So, like I said, just go beyond domain. If you have to thrive the next decade, you need to be able to discuss beyond code commit in the morning, debate about market strategy. How do you enter the new market strategy in the afternoon? You need to be able to um, have that breadth of perspective which will turn you from just delivery to business leader. So, if you can bring in that value, and again, depending that every job, we have lakhs of students graduating. At the best, GCCs and service providers are hiring about a lakh. if you can create that entrepreneurial mindset, understand how do you go to an angel investor and ask for a pitching. Can you develop that pitch? Can you think of innovative ideas? And India is a market where any product can click at if it is innovative. There is need for, and then this can be scaled up to global. So why should we always look at somebody having that innovative idea and we work? We have all the ideas. Can you develop that entrepreneurial mindset? Develop those innovative products in India and scale it globally. Remember, sometimes it's just those boldest move and just raising hands and saying, I will take it from here. I've got the talent, I've got the investment, I will scale it up, I'll develop a product that is global. I think that's the way to go in the future.
Sure, ma'am. Sure. Probably the last question is, I understand, giving these insights is your business, right? I think what the skills are looking for. But do you also do as a CSR for some of the colleges, like, how to, I think you mentioned, what the students should do so that they get employed. So do you do that as a CSR or it's purely business?
So we we actually, for example, we recently went to St. Joseph's. We talked about what skills are going to be there irrespective of what market conditions. It's not necessarily business. Of course, we need to have business, but we do do sessions. We are open to having that conversation. Ultimately, if a country is thriving, we all thrive. So um, we haven't necessarily started a very proactive CSR activity yet because we are a relatively new entry into the market. We are strategizing our own market strategy for business perspective, but also looking at how do we make an impact. Because at the end of the day, we are all here to make the impact. And how do we make impact to the regional teams is what we are looking at. We will come up with those strategies in the coming days.
Fantastic, Miss Saraswati. It was pleasure talking to you. As mentioned in the beginning, I really learned a lot of insights. I'm sure our audience also would have got a lot of insight from here. So thanks a million for your time and for sharing the insights.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure talking to you, Shankar.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.